Right, so this is a short instruction set, and I will do the code walkthrough, how to install code blocks, and how you set up your things in your computer. And also I'm going to give you a little walkthrough on the code, that what you have to do and all that. Okay, right. So let's get started with installing code blocks. So you just go and Google code blocks. Once you've done that, you will come to this page right here, the first link for installation. So that's what we're going to use. You can straight go to the downloads here, right? And we go to binary release. So that's where we're going. Okay, so I'll give you the instructions for Windows installation. So I recommend you to use Windows. If you're using a Mac, there is a link here. But if you are building something other than if you're using iOS latest, I don't think it will help you because it's also saying here it is not available for that, right? But I have seen a few sites out there which is you can download the compatible version of code blocks for if you're using iOS beyond High Sierra. So this works for the Mac High Sierra, and well, I use that to build this whole the engine. So if you're using a Mac, well, you have two options. One is you can install OpenGL on the Xcode. Actually, Xcode comes with that, and then you can set up a project in that and use the files that I gave you, and then make your own. Okay, right. So I will walk you through the Windows 10 how to install and work your project on that. And if you have any questions, concerns, including if you're having problems on Mac, let me know, so I can look at it later. Right, so all right, so the Windows people, you go here for the fourth one, which is right here. It is saying code block 17.12 Ming GW setup exe. So the fourth one right here. Right, so that's where you're going to download it. You can click on SourceForge. So if I go to SourceForge on the fourth, so it will ask you okay, so it will take 3 seconds, 5 seconds, okay, some time, and then it will let you install. Once you download that and install, you good with code blocks. I already have it, so it is very straightforward. You just run it. That's all you have to do. Okay, right. So once you download that, one remarks I had to make: if you already have the code blocks different version means if it is not Ming GW, you may have to uninstall completely, restart your machine and install Ming GW, right? So why? Because Ming GW supports OpenGL. So OpenGL is the graphical interface. I mean the graphic supports libraries for the C++, right? Well, OpenGL is the most common one. The other is, if you want to go any other graphics that if you want to use, you can use DirectX, but I written this in OpenGL support platform. Okay, right. So once you download it, you install code blocks. All right, so the second thing you do is you go to the lab site in CSCI 15. I put this in the assignments section, so you go there. You can say maze project files, so click on that, you come here, you click on this, and you can download it, right? So it will ask, oh, where do you want to download it? Download wherever you want to, right? And let's say I'm going to downloads, and click on this and it will download, right? And then you open it, and drag and drop this to wherever you want to play. Desktop is better place, so you can put it in a desktop. So I already have it in my desktop, downloaded, and then I installed. So this is a file structure. You have something called common folder, right? And in the common folder you have source and the library, I mean the include and the library, and then a few files in there, right? In the includes you have the things you want. You don't need sounds, but OpenGL libraries are there, so which is glut.h. that's what I'm going to use, right? And all right, so this is the structure, right? Well, okay, so in this structure, where are your files? Well, H files, so the header files will be in include folder, right? And the source files will be in source folder, right? So those are the places you have things, right? Okay, right. So then this is the setup, and if you install code block successfully, you can double click on this and it should be running on code blocks like this. Yeah, so this is my maze on the code blocks. You don't need this because I already have one. Okay, so this is how it's look like in your code blocks. It will be open up, right? And okay, so so let me walk you through few setup here in the code blocks, and then I will walk you through the code, right? Yeah, this is whatever I provided you is the source code I provide you, and the setup, all that is belongs to this machine that I'm using. So might be the paths, all the paths will be related to mine, so you may have to change some of it, right? So let's go ahead and check that. You can go to the project properties, click on that, and well, so far you don't have to worry about these things here. You may have to go a little bit deeper, right? Especially build targets. In the build targets also, this is local, no worries. I have my exe file directed to the maze, which is the same directory I'm working on my thing. So this is what application is right here, right? So that's the application that's set up for that. If you want to put it in a different place, of course you can. That is the setup right here, saying execution working directory. And for now the object output is going to this one right here. So those paths are right. Okay, so that is the one thing. It seems everything is good in your build target, but let's go a little bit beyond this. So I'm going to click go back to the project settings and go to the project build options, right? Okay, so this is something if you're having troubles, you may have to go and check, right? Usually I'm conducting a lab and setting this up for everybody, so in that case it's not a big deal, but right now I have to do everything online, so I'm going to post this video, right? Okay, so you come here, so we don't have to change anything here, and go to the linker settings. So this is where you may have to check things. Check whether you have this one setting up as is like this, especially this guy right here. It's a common /lib soil.a has to be on the top, and the following the rest. These things you don't have to worry about. If you have it, just leave it. You can even remove these are for the music. You don't put the sounds in this one, so if you do, you may have to use this. Otherwise you don't, right? Okay, so sounds good so far. So check the setup is like this. So if you have it like this, that's good. Then you go to the search directories. The search directories, this is where I'm linking my header files. So there are two places I have the header files. One is on the common/inc, right? Where is this place? Well, the common and inc. So here are some header files, right? .h is here and all this, right? And then what else we had to check here? Well, the other one is include itself. So that means when I go here, I have includes. If you're writing a class or something like this in this project, of course it will come here. So these are the header files that you're going to put in there, right? Okay, so that is the place that you put the header files, and the source is right here, right? Okay, this is the source of that. Okay, so so you have that. So you just move on. If you have these path settings like this, that's good. And check, this is for the compiler, and you can check whether the linker has the same. So if you change something here, make sure the linker has the same, or the change these ones. How do you change these ones or adding these ones? So you just click on add and then go and find the path, whatever you want to add. It will pop up and show you here, so you can set up appropriate links for the search directories if you want. Right, so that is one thing you can check up in your settings. If these are different, you may have to consider, otherwise you're good to go, right? So if you say okay on this, make sure it is a GNU GCC compiler. That's what the compiler is. Okay, right, so far if you have these settings like that, you're good to go. You say okay. One more thing I'd like you to do is go to build here and clean your project. So I have to clean up everything. All right, and then you have to build this. How do you build this? Is either you can go build options here, right? Or I can do the build from this little icon and build and run with this icon. This is what I'm using, right? So this little icon right here says build and run. You can use that. Okay, so let's go ahead and run this, and then I think you already get the idea how to install this, and then just simply download the application and run, right? So let's run this. Okay, so I click on build and run. So it is building right now. So if you build, it will run like this. So this is the setup that you have, and I will go through the code setup, I mean the code walk through the code, so you can understand these things. So you may change most of it. So you may change the architecture or the graphics on this. You can have the players. I think you have now the fish and then a man and then so many other characters. You can select one of them and make them automatically move. That is what you're going to do. So this is the setup I'm going to give you. To trigger this player's movement, I just set my arrow key. Any of them, if I click this guy right here, we're going to move randomly through this structure. So you can see now he's walking everywhere, but he's not going to get out from the screen. So I have set it up like that, right? So he's randomly going through each grid, right? That's how currently it's working, right? Right, so you setting things up manually. I think you have to input some algorithms to find a path, right? So that's what you do. Right, so well, let me go through the code and introduce you what you're doing here. And I think he can shoot right now, because the last semester it was like that. You can shoot people, right? But now I think it's changed to so the space bar to shoot, I think you don't need it anymore. So but I'll just leave it like that. So if you want to do, if you're gonna look at those things, if you're interested in code to see how you're writing things like that, you can. So that's why I just left it there, right? Okay, so what is this code and what is this all about? Okay, right. So this is the structure which you have. You have source files right here, and then you have main, and then you have header files right here. So if you are planning to make a class for anything, you go file here and new, and then click on class, right, and then give that class name. So let's say I'm going to create a class here called test, for example, right, and then you click create, and it will ask, do you want to add this to this project? You say yes, right, and then it's asking, do you want to have it in a debugger and the release? You say okay, and then you can see now I have my test cpp here, and then the test.h here. So you can edit your test.h and then the test cpp, and then work on that. Whatever you want to do, you can do, right? And only thing that you have to worry about in this code is the main.cpp. This is the only thing that you're going to edit. That's all you have to do to make your project work through this. Okay, right, so let me go through this and introduce you each and every step here and what you can do using this, so you'll be good to go and make things happening for your project. All right, so at the beginning you may have to have string.h, because I'm using a cout anyway, so you must have this one. And the common things are, I'm just putting some common common things like the files that you need or the required things in here. You don't have to worry about that. And then the maze.h, I create a maze for you, so that is where you play around, right? IO stream to read files, or I mean the input output, file reading and everything. And then the timer is very important, because each one's machine is different. So I set up a timer to keep the speed same on the machine. And then the player.h, the player here in your project, you can select multiple players, different players. Like one time you can select a fish or something like that. I think the frog is there, as I recall, right? So whatever you use, like for example, you may have to create like 5 instances of the players, right? Right now in the demo you have only one. Okay, right, so yeah, this is where you creating and how you create the player, right? So right now I have one, and the maze is, it says okay, I have 8 by 8, right? If you want to change this to any number, like for example, let's say I need 15 by 15 grid, so let's put 15 and run this and see how it look like, right? Right, you notice now I have more squares, right? And in this grid I have 0 0 right here at the bottom, and the 15 15 right up here, right? And the other values. Okay, so that's how I set this up, right? Okay, and right now I think the player is in 0 1 2 3 4 5 6th place. 0 6 is my player position. Okay, to verify that, I can click on this and it should show where he is. I will show you that in a minute, but this is how now he's moving randomly, but he's moving only a very small space, but you can set up the paths that he can move everywhere, right? So that's what you're going to do in this one anyway, right? Okay, all right. So why he's running everywhere? I'll show you why. And I set up this one to do the actions randomly. So his actions are, he has 4 actions which is going up, down, left, right. So uh, those the values are picking randomly, and he's doing the random thing right now. Okay, instead of moving him random, what you have to do is move him uh, according to a plan that you're going to do the path settings and all that. So that's what your project is, right? So right, okay, so that is one thing that you learned there. You can change the path by setting right here, I mean the grid, by clicking on these things. So let's put 10 there for now. Okay, and that is your maze. So you need only one maze with the grid, so unless you're using levels. So this is where my maze is, which is the background. Okay, right. So what are the things you're setting up in the background? Well, the first thing is you can set up the picture of your background. So how do I do that? So this is where the picture for the background, right? So this is the function init initialization, and you go there and say I need the image for my background, and this is how I set up, right? So the images, I have a back.jpg, so that is what my background is. Let me go and look at it here, and this is my background, right? That, let me open it with photos. Yes, it takes time to come up. Come on. All right. Okay, so this is how the background look like, right? So you can pick any background you like, depending on your matrix setup. You can do whatever you want to do, and I have some objects in there. So this is one of them, and enemies are not there anymore, so I remove the enemies. And this is a different sprite sheet. This is what I'm using actually. So this is the characters I'm using here, right? You can see he's walking up and down, and then so on. Right, talking about this character, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 6 frames per move. When he's walking downward, I have 6. When he's walking upward, I have 6. The left I have 6, and right I have 6. But you can select any character you want, and I recommend you to have the same, so you don't have to change the code. Have 6 frames to move up and down, left and right, so that will be easy for you to work on it. But if you really want to do something differently, different characters with the different frame number, obviously you can change that in the code. I'll show you where, but in that case you have to do the calculations differently. You may have to dig through the other files to find where you changing the frame. So you can send me email if you really get stuck with it. Okay, all right. So this is the brick picture, which is the bricks that I'm going to use. So anyway, those are the files that I have, and this is for, I have one object called the arrow pack, so that is where the arrow pack is. And then this is the fire, which is, if you're shooting the fire, this is what it shows there, which is moving. Right, so anyway, those are the pictures I have, which I'm not using this one. I'm not using this one. The rest I'm using in this one. So you can have as much pictures as much as you want and apply into this one. Okay, so this is where you're going to set up your background. So you know now where to set the background. And then let's go back again. Okay, so in this background, in the maze, I set up two things. One is for chest image, which is you may not use in your program. These are just the objects to make it look good, and then it is saying, okay, have an image for chest, which is the heart, I believe, and then place it. So where you gonna place it, right? Like that. You have the arrow pack as well. So this is the arrow pack, which is the purple picture, right? And then plate it somewhere. So you don't need these two. You can comment these out in your project, right? If you want to use it, you can. Otherwise, you just comment those out like this, this, and this, and this. So if you comment out these, if you don't use it, you can just simply comment out, and don't draw them either. So you go down to display, and I don't need to draw those things, right? So I don't need to draw arrows, right? And then the chest. So you simply come here and comment this out from here to here, and right. So if you do that, you don't need it anymore. So if I run it like this now, okay, so it is look like this now. So you can set your player. Now you don't have any other the chest and the arrow pack or anything. It's just the player, right? So that is how you can get rid of things. You just comment it out, right? So I just comment out my chest and the arrow pack if you don't want it, so you can do that like that. So this is where actually you're going to put more objects in your game or the project that you're going to work on, so you can use that. So this is how you do that. So it is image, the PNG. Why the PNG? The PNG has an important role in images. If you're using a PNG, you can set the background transparent. So if you're using a JPEG or anything, the background is not transparent, right? So make sure you're using a transparent background. If you're using something other than the background here, which is a JPEG, you can notice that. But everything written over that is called PNG, right? So, and drawing order is important. If you're drawing something on the background, so first you draw the background, and then later you're going to draw the things with the PNG files. Right, so this is the original way it was. I just showed you, you can get rid of things by just commenting out. If you do commenting out, make sure you're commenting out in the initialization, and also in your the drawing function, which is the display. Okay, right. So far we have done up to here. That's all you have to worry about. When you're changing your game environment, you change this. So then I come to the player. This is where your player instance works. So instead of this, you may have few more. You don't need the arrow part, which is, I have done this for the earlier ones, so that's why you have arrow. In this case, you don't have to draw arrows, so make sure you can get rid of that. Well, those are, you can figure out by yourself. Okay, right. And then place the player right in the grid wherever you want to place it. So all that in the initialization process that you're setting things up. Oh, you have multiple walls here. So in my program, okay, so this is how it's look like now, right? Of course, you can make it bigger and smaller by dragging on the corner like this, right? So I have the perspective settings, so you can set it to any size you want. If you have a smaller grid, of course this guy will be small. How do I handle that? Well, whenever you create your grid size, so the grid on the top with the class here, you said 10 means this is the value of the grid size, and whenever you're initializing your player, I give the grid size. So that's why your player will adjust to the size of the grid. For example, this guy is adjust to this size, right? So you can handle that so it will fit into this little square here, right? Okay. And so yeah, so this is the walls that I have certain this is the line that I'm setting the walls, right? So I have a class created walls with 100 bricks in there, right? So this is a 100 bricks wall, and then I set up the timer to T0. If you want to use that, you can. The 100 walls that you have, well, when you come here, so I have 100 walls, right? But I'm going to set only 10 of them, so just using a for loop here to the grid size. So whenever you're going to draw something look like this, initialize the image, right, for all the walls, right? So one bad part here is I'm just using I'm repeatedly calling the same image. So yeah, for this project it's okay, but in a complex projects I would use one texture handler and then just load these ones and then apply for the rest of the walls. But I did not go for that optimization on this code right here, right? If you're really expert in graphics, if you want to do that, you can. Right, and if I do it like this, if I say I equals 0 to 10, because I have 10 grids, and I plus plus, it's supposed to give you, and I put the picture in there, right? And then I say place the walls on the 5th row and each eye. So if I do up to here, right, that, right, what you should get is this whole line filled with bricks, right? But then what I do here is I'm just saying, okay, take the brick 5 and place it in 0 3. So what happened here is when you do that, so the brick 5 will come right here, the 0 3 position, 0 1 2 3, right? And this way it is 0, so the x value is 0 and the y value is 1 2 3. So this is where it is. Okay, so that's how you're counting, starting from 0 position. So it will count on your grid starting, this is 0 and so on. So you can set your matrix to that setting of the grid values and work on it. Okay, so that is how you set it up. These are the images that I set up. So use your own image and your grid pattern, the placing things the way you want on your environment, so it will be set it up the way you want. Okay, so this is the setup. So I think in your project you have to set up water and then all these things, and one can go over, one cannot. So those are things that you have to handle with your matrices, and move from one matrix to the other, write some rules on that, and create your matrix, whatever you're going to use for that, and apply the matrix positions on this place thing, and you can set up this environment as much as you want. So where are you setting these placing and images? It's called the function init. So you go to the init function, don't touch any of these things, you don't have to worry about any. Only thing you have to worry about from right here. Okay, so these are the image settings and the placement. So that's how you're setting up your environment. You create new classes right here. This is the beginning of the program. You set up your maze, you set up your player. Instead of a one player, you will have multiple players. So the player 1, player 2, player 3, or the player fish, player frog, and whatever you want to do that. And the water and mountains, or the buildings, create more walls for that. So wall W, wall water, wall whatever you call wall as the class name, and then just have some arrays of bricks that you can set it up. Okay, so that's how you do that part. So it will take care of this right here. And once you setting up in initialization, of course you have to display those. So this is how I display things. I notice that I don't have a push and pop for my wall because I already have it in my wall function, so that's why I don't have it here. But the rest I'm putting in the push and pop. So if you're having a multiple players, make sure you have the push and pop and then put that, right? So what is this push and pop? Well, the push and pop is nothing but you put in brackets on your coding, right, like that in OpenGL. They're using a push pop, so you can handle things very easily using that. So that is the purpose of this. Well, if I draw that on the screen, that is nothing but, so let me get this right here. So this is actually the starting of your bracket, this is the end of your bracket, and whatever you do in here is belongs to only this instance. So that's what it is. Okay, so this is what the push and pop means, right? So in this guy, if you whatever you do here, the resize or anything, rotation, resize or whatever, it belongs to only this part right here because of the push and pop. So that's the purpose of it. Okay, so anyway, that is one thing that I want to point out here. Right, so let's get back. So and clear this. 1 minute, please. I don't need that anymore. Clear. Right, so it's gone. All right, so so that's how you're using that. That's the purpose of it. So when you're drawing this, make sure you have push and pop for new classes that you're going to create. Okay, all right. What else you have to handle here? Well, that's all you have to worry about, drawing things and the action of this player. So this is one thing that you may have to consider, the actions, right? So if you have a frog or fish, this P may be changed to the frog or fish or whatever you're using. And so these are the actions. So the actions means if the action is 1, I'm going upward, right? And if the action is 2, you're going downward. Action is 3, you're going left. Action is 4, you're going right. So this is where your code is coming, right? Okay, so this is where you're writing your code, or the class, or the whatever you write, you call it right here, and pass that output of that into the action of the player. So each time when you are having a different action, this is where it's going to work. Right, so right now I have random actions, so that's why it's going everywhere, right? Okay, so yeah, so in your code you can set up your actions here, right? So this is just the example of how you're going to do that, right? Okay, so there's another place that I like you to write your code changing the actions. Not here, but you can write it here as well, but I recommend you to use it some other place. I'll show you in a minute. Okay, so anyway, what is this 6 here? So this 6 here is the number of frames for each move, right? Like for example, this guy has walking upward 6 frames, left and right, wherever he goes 6 frames, right? I showed you that a minute ago, so let me go back and show you that. It was in my maze. Where's my maze? To right here, and then the images, and then let me get this character here, open with photos, right? Okay, so let me make it bigger a little. Right, so this is the frame. these are the frames that you go. This is 1 2 3 4 5 6 frames, right? And how you map this is very interesting. I'll just point out this one here so you have a little idea. So whenever you load this into the computer, it will load by this whole thing by 1 square. And so this is how it's loaded into the computer, 1 by 1 square, right? And I have something called texture code, which is going to get 1 frame at a time. So this is the 1 frame, first frame, and this is the second frame, and so on, right? So that's how I go. And what is the value here is right here. It will be 1/6, and this is a 0 to 1/6 is my first frame coordinates, and the second frame is 1/6 to 2/6, right? And then the third one is 3/6. Well, if you do graphics, you understand what I'm talking about. But anyway, that is how I set up these things. So that's why the 6 means you have 6 frames, right? If you have more than that in your character set, the sprite sheet that you're going to use, of course you have to give that value, okay, right? If you have 9 or 10 like that, but I recommend you to use the 4 lines like this, because that code is already in the player. What I'm doing here is the y value of this is divided into 4, right? So it is, if you take this one as 0. This one is 0, let's say this one is 0.12, right? 25, and this is 0.5, right? And this is 0.75, and then this is 1. So this is how the mapping works. So when I'm using these little things right here, for the y coordinates I'm using 0, 25, 5, 75, and 1. So I like you to have the same, but in case, let's say some people might use only 2 set of characters, so you will have things like this, and then like this, right? So in this case you have only 2, right, instead of 4 rows. So in that case you may have to go to player and then set up your frames differently. For example, the y values is going, if you're using this set of frames, it will be, the range will be like 0.5 to 1. If you're using this range right here, it will be 0 to 0.5, right? So in the frame number it will be 3 frames, right? Okay, so that's what that frame thing is important if you're using how many of these matters, right? So I hope you understand that. If you're doing graphics, you will understand it better, but if it is not really, if you don't get it, yeah, I think I have seen some people from your both labs who's doing graphics. You can just I think you friends, you know, they're in my graphic class as well as my game class. They might explain to you better, right? Okay, so grab one of them and ask, so they will help you out if you cannot reach me. Otherwise you can reach me and I will try to help you as much as I can. Okay, right, so let's move on. Okay, so let me clear the screen again. Right, it's gone. Good. So now so this is what this frame number means, how many frames that you need, right? Because some images have upward, like for example, let me go back again. So where you find these things, if you go to website or the Google, so go to Google and search for you call sprite sheet, right? So you type sprite sheet, right? So if you go images here, and you can see a bunch of them right here. This one, right, doesn't have all the frames. So this one has frames for the first guy, which is going 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 frames for this one, but this one has only 6 frames, right? And then this one has different number of frames. So in that case you can use those different values. But very important, if you're using a sprite sheets like this, go to the tools here and make sure go to the color and then click on transparent. So these are the transparent images. That means the PNGs that you're going to look for. So this is one group of PNG. Notice if you have PNG, it will be the transparent background. So this one has of course 4 rows, but doing something differently than what I'm using. But the number of frames are changing from one to the other. So that's why I'm setting up the frame number in the code here. So that will be changed, or the different from each move has a different number, right? Okay, so that is the reason for that. And here I just block this out, the comment this out. But if you really want to access the player's location, so in this case, whenever the player goes up, it will print, if I just remove this, it will print what is the player's location. So if you want to get the player's location, this is how we get the player's location. That's what I'm showing you here, right? Okay, so that is player's actions. And the keys, I have set up two different type of keys. One is just the normal keys on the keyboard. If it is a space bar, right, this is shooting. So what that means is if you run this program again, maybe you are not going to use this in your game, right? So this is what shooting is. So whenever he's facing direction, he can shoot, right? So that's what it is, right? Like that. So that is what it is, right? And that is for the space bar. So that's why I just said p shoot right here. You can use it. It was in the last project, the last semesters, that you do. If you want to set your player without moving anywhere, make him stand, right? So if you say move player stand, he will stay in one place, he won't move, right? Otherwise he will move everywhere. If you're using action 1 2 4, the stand is he's coming to still, right? Okay, so that is that. And then don't worry about this part. This is doing something to map everything into the mouse locations. So where the final mouse location, whenever, the reason I'm giving you this part is you may have to click here to select the object on your screen. For example, if you're running this, let me run this one more time, right? Imagine that this is one player, imagine this is another player and another player. So this is your beginning, at the beginning, the setup. You may have fish, frog, a player, and some other objects here, right? And then what you do is you click one of them. So notice here when you click one of them, I'm just showing you the location right now when you click. So if I click this guy, it will give you mouse click location 60. So what is 60 means 0 1 2 3 4 5 6, and in the y-axis it is 0. So that is the location here. So like that, I just give you this mouse, click, it will give you any location. So you can pick that location and check whether there is an object in there. Even you make it bigger or smaller, the location will be mapped, right? So this is why I'm using that function, because usually the mouse position is given by the resolution, but in this case I had to map that to my code, right? So then it will go and access that place, right? So that is one thing that you're using here just to get the mouse location, right? Okay, so so this is 4x4, whatever it shows here, right? Anyway, so you need that mouse click to select the object which is going to move in the path that you're going to write in your algorithm, right? Okay, so far um, so that is what this one, and the mouse locations will be on the X position and Y position. What are these? Well, I just define those up here just to keep track of mouse thing. Right, this right here, right, viewport mapping, X position, Y position. Right, so that's what the mouse is. Okay, all right. Okay, so we came that up to here. This is the idle function. This is where your code is going to be. You can I'm recommend you to have, if you want to do the automatic movement of your things, like for example you writing an algorithm to find the path, right? And each path you're going to generate your pathfinder algorithm and say, okay, move the player left, right? If you generate that, and then if you want to execute that, you don't have to write it in a for loop. This will be automatically a for loop. This is the automatic for loop. That means like you writing a while something, right? Right, say you say while do something until you exit. Actually this idle right here is doing that, right? It is a callback function and it's automatically trigger when your program start running. So in this case, this guy, whatever you put it here, it will automatically execute. You can write something like you don't need this anymore. You can write something like cout, let's say I have a global I equals 0, right? Integer, right? Well, let me show you this anyway. It's better that I'm showing you this part. Okay, so let me write this here. Let's say I have global int j equals 0, right? And then I'm telling the system simply cout and j plus plus each line, so it is and L. Right, so if I run this program, what happens is if I run this program, right, so you can see now this J is showing here and it's always going. I don't have for loop, I don't have while loop, I don't have any loop, but it's still showing there, right? So that is the automatic loop function. So this is on idle. If you want to, this is where I set up this timer, because some machines running fast, some machines running slow. In that case, this will be your game, the graphical interface going crazy if you don't have a time settings. So right now I have saying this one do iteration after 300 milliseconds, right? So that's what it is. So when I put it here, it will run the same but a little bit slower now. After 300 milliseconds it will jump from one to the other. So you can see now it's going slow, right? Yeah, earlier it went right crazy, now it's going each step is going a little slower, right? So I'm controlling my speed by the timer, so that's what I'm having it here, which is a get ticks, right? So you don't have to alter anything like that, so you can put things in there so it will control the timer and then work on it. So let me get rid of these two, you don't need it anymore, right? Okay, so place your code here. That will be, if you're running automatic, yeah, you can place it here with the flag start. Once you click your if you want to start your program running something in it, yeah, after you click let's say you pick your player and then you start finding the path. So in that case you can set up a flag up there saying start or pause, whatever you want to do. Then you can say if start, then execute your code, right? So how you trigger the start, you can come to this mouse function right here. And yeah, so set your mouse click and pick your mouse click after this line right here, which is a get position, right? After this you just set your start thing, so it will give you the location of mouse click and then it will execute there, right? So the special keys, I have the manual control for the player right now. So if you're using a keyboard, these actions by these keys, but I don't, that will change your path of course. If you're writing an algorithm and set this one active, that means you can change your path manually, right? Okay, so yeah, I think you know what I mean, right? You don't have to touch any of this unless you want to change the window size. Right now it's in 800 by 800, and the position of this means it will where it starts. So if I say here started in x400, right, so that means in your screen after 400 pixels it starts from here, right? So this is 400 pixels by 100 pixels. This is the corner right here, okay? So if you want to bring it to the middle of your screen, you can. Right now if I have 100 there, well, it will be move a little bit to this corner right there, right? Yeah, like that. Okay, so that is that. All right, so other than that, I think give you the walkthrough on this. What else can go wrong? Well, one thing can go wrong is soil.h. Let me put some remarks on that as well. Well, we are using something called soil, which is a simple OpenGL image library. Why I'm using that? Well, mostly when you're writing some code like this, there are so many extensions, or you can say we have so many types of images, like for example .jpg is one type, right? And .png is another type, right? So these are things we're using in this program. So I don't know the format of these, right? When I'm going to load these into my game, I don't know the format of these. So figuring out the format is too much work. So for that, just to figure out the format of this, what is the order of pixel pack and what are the compressions techniques they're using, how do I uncompress these, right? So those things, that is beyond our coding aspect on this. So because of that, I'm using something called soil, right? Okay, soil.h, right? This guy has compatibility to some extent. I have seen some machines giving trouble, so that's why I'm going to talk about this a little. Yeah, if it is if you're having a problems with the soil in this your program, one thing you can do, especially Mac people, one thing you can do is, actually my soil libraries are here. One is called soil.h, right here, soil.h. The other guy is in the lib, which is libsoil.a. So these are the two files. Don't worry about these things. These things are for the sounds. You can get rid of it if you want. I did not put the sounds in this code. If you want to use it, you can. Right. Okay. Anyway, the soil.lib is the one that I'm going to talk about a little. Which, right. So to find soil the library, you can go. Let's go to my documents. So let's go to dhanyu. That's my name. .com /CSCI. Let's go 172. I think I have it in there. So click on that and you go to go down a little bit more here, and let me see where you can download this. Okay, so you go to class notes. Just below that you will have a glut installation, and let's go and find soil setup right here. Right, so this is where it is. So it is danu.com/CSCI 172, and click on soil setup, and it will open up this one, right? And this is the link for downloading soil. So if you click on that, it will ask where you want to put it. So go ahead and select that, download somewhere, right? Okay, so once you download it, this is the library you have, right? So you extract to somewhere, and one good thing here, once you download it, let me make it bigger, large icon so you can see better, right? So if you're having trouble with the soil, if it is not running in your system, so what you do here is you go to projects and select what is the compiler using. I'm using code blocks in my case, and if you double click this, it will open up in your soil, right? So somewhere here, oh, I did not extract that, so give me a second. I go here, find it. So I'm in downloads right now, and my one is soil right here. So let me grab this guy and put it in my downloads, right. Okay, and open downloads. So now I have it here, and go to projects of that, and then code blocks. Oh, before you go there, I'll show you what I'm doing here, right? Okay, so you go to lib here, you can see soil lib soil.a. So if you delete this, I'm going to delete it, right? So now it's not there, right? So then you go to here and the projects, and then run this one time in your computer, and run it under this guy. Let me go here and open it. Open project. Let me see where it is. Let's click open, and what you want to open, it's asking, and then I'm going to my downloads, and then where's the soil, right? Projects, code blocks, and then soil, right? So this is where it is, right? So now it is active, not this guy. The active folder is this. I just simply run it one time, right? There's nothing happens, it's only running up to here, right? So then it will ask, there's nothing to run it, so that's okay. So when you click OK, and then go ahead and close this, you don't need any more. So again, your maze project active, right? And once you've done that, you go to the lib that you just deleted. Now you have a new file. So please copy this one to your working folder. So I have it in my desktop. I have my maze down here, maze one up, right here, and you go to the common, and you go to the lib, and then you paste it right here. Okay, you paste it right there. This is only if you're having problems with it, otherwise you're good to go. Sometimes if you have 64 by 32 versions, it will give you some troubles, so that's why I should show you. The ink, I mean the .h file is already there, so you don't have to worry about that. So that's how you're going to work on that. I think this is enough for you to start up. So hit me back if you have problems installing code blocks and run it. So once you download it, make sure you go to the project and clean again, right? Build and clean and rebuild again, so it will be localized to your system, right? Okay, a few more things here. You can actually figure out how to release this thing. so again you go to project properties here. So you have two versions. One is debugger, one is the release, right? So you can set this up only for the release if you want, and then make this program run for the release at the end, so you can have the release version, no debugging, so it runs much more faster and smoother, right? The paths that you want to set up your exe, the execution file is here. Right now it's going to the debugger right there, right? So those things that you want to set up, you can set up here, right? So the release mod is good, so you can execute something on the release is the one you're going to distribute. You're not going to distribute the debug version, you're always going to distribute the release version, right? So play around with that, you can learn that later on, right? Of course, if you have problems in code blocks, you can go and Google it and solve simple ones. If you really cannot figure it out, hit me back, so I will help you out. Okay, right? So I think this helps for you to do this, and happy coding, right?